Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Flashback to the Track. And I'll preface by saying Happy Canada Day to all, probably zero of our Canadian listeners. But thank you guys, each and every one of you. I am joined, as always, by my good buddy, James. James, what's going on, man? You've been all over the place lately, doing all kinds of different things.
Yeah, I've been trying to get out there. COVID times. Things have been at a standstill for a little bit, and we can't stand still forever. So at some point, just like our beautiful economy here in America, we got to restart. We got to jumpstart ourselves. But I don't know. I don't know if it's too soon or not. But you know what? I feel good so far. I feel like I'm COVID free at least.
Well, that's good, man. And you've been out doing all kinds. We have a lot to talk about this week. But the first thing we'll talk about is the fact that James has been going to short track races. Because we talked about short track racing a couple of podcasts ago when we had Peyton Sellers on. And it was cool to just, go back to the roots. And then we talked about the All-Star Showdown in our last podcast. And that was cool to talk about, just really a night when NASCAR honored all the small series guys. And, I think that a lot of the people who watch NASCAR, at least the ones I interact with on Twitter, don't really watch a lot of short track racing because, the idea of the choose cone blew people's minds. They'd never heard of that. And then, that's like a regular thing in short track racing, right? Like they do that all the time at racetracks all over the place. So, James, enlighten me on the short track, on kind of like what, your experience with someone as a photographer and a videographer going to short track races and shooting like short track stuff.
I guess my experience is that it's always an interesting time. You can definitely feel like you're going there a little too prepared at times, but you can never be too prepared. It's just always good to be, it's always good to have like everything you need to function because it's such a different dynamic than most forms of racing, where you have like designated areas where you can be and everything. There are such areas, but it's very like free forming, very self-governing. I mean, you kind of understand where you can and can't be, but also you understand like what you can and can't be, shooting, because you're not just shooting like random people who are working on these cars. These are like average Joes, and they want their privacy, so you can't be just going up in their business. But it's a very interesting appeal and lure. It's definitely a different kind of atmosphere, though.
Yeah, I noticed. So when you and I've actually like weirdly only been to a couple of short track races in my life because I kind of where I grew up, it's not really a thing that people do very often. It's a very niche group of people in Ontario, in Canada, that go to short track auto racing, and doesn't have the same level of interest it does in the United States. So I went to South Boston last year when it was the VIR, Virginia International Raceway IMSA weekend on the Saturday night, and James was going to go with me, but then his team won the race at VIR, so he got a little bit busy dealing with that. So I went to South Boston on my own, kind of got that experience, and like you said, it was like I feel like I'm like really like I can just go wherever I want. Like I don't have to wear a vest or anything, Like it seemed like surreal because I was so used to, go to the photo meeting and get your vest and here's where you can and can't go. But, short track racing was more Wild West style of like, you can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. And like you said, a lot of the people are not as used to having their photo taken as maybe professional drivers are, right? They get their photo taken all the time. They don't even notice photographers anymore, except the ones that don't like having their photo taken. They notice you. But so that was kind of like a culture shock. And then when you and I went to New Smyrna together, the week of the Daytona 500, I think it was the Wednesday, right? We went to New Smyrna together to do some shooting, and that was really cool to get that experience of just, with being buds and going around like short tracking and taking photos. And I realized that like short tracks are dark, folks, especially if your camera is not good in low light. Like mine was not on that day. So.
Yeah, and that's where it comes down to like certain aspects about learning the craft, because every discipline of motorsports is a craft in itself to shoot. So, that aspect of There are times where you're going to need a flash, but then that just limits you to those single, uses of that flash. And, it's all about what you're trying to achieve. And there's a lot of things you can achieve, and there's a lot of elements you can try to push. And then also, there's a lot of things to remember with whenever you're shooting, always remember if there's a lot of people around you, think how many other people are getting the same shot you are. Be different. Try to go somewhere else. Go where people aren't. And that's a big thing I don't see in short track racing that I love to do is just I'll play the opposite game. This past weekend, I think the second race, I went on the outside of the track. No one was on the outside. It limited myself to only a certain number of spots I could go to where I had the entire track. If I was on the inside, I was stuck getting the same stuff I did get basically the first night and basically the same stuff everyone else is getting. So I went to the outside trying to be a little different, and it actually kind of played off into my favor. I can cross it off the list at least. Will I do it again? I don't know, but I did it. I don't have to wonder anymore, and I think it's like a good aspect too about it. But that picking and choosing is too another, interesting thing to think about because you have to pick whether you're going to be on the inside or the outside. You can't have it both ways.
There's no tunnel at the local short track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a lot of these places, there's no tunnel. The only way across is physically walking across the track, whether it's a crossover gate or right at the front straightaway. So it really makes you pick and choose and really understand what you want to try to get out of your session or your shoots. So yeah, it's a fun time though. There are a lot of cool tracks though I haven't been to yet, Mark. I think you and I have only been to like 3 each. But across the South, there's a lot of really cool ones, like Montgomery, for example. That's one I really want to go to. I really want to go to the Talladega short track in just outside of the Super Speedway, Talladega, Alabama. That's the dirt track out over there. They run Friday nights, apparently, every Friday night. We'll see how long that lasts. East Bay, of course, is by me. There's a lot of really interesting ones in the South. I don't know what it's like over by you in Canada, but like for myself, like in the Southeast, there's a plethora of short tracks. And this is a short track season. It's kind of getting to the point now where it's going to ramp up with the amount of races that will, be on, mainly just because of the pandemic and, it halting a lot of the schedule throughout the spring, and a lot of races are trying to be made up in the early summer. It's also just the time period is going to get too hot around here. So racing is going to kind of slow down. We're not going to see any more big races here. The big races would more or less be run kind of up in the Midwest, the Southwest. They're going to get their time in the sun because of the different time just with the temperature change. So it's interesting too how like it kind of is a traveling circus of like season-based racing too, because like the hot and cold temperatures affect when the racing's hot and cold.
Yeah, because obviously in the South you can race nearly year round, depending, right? In a lot of places, obviously in Florida you can be on track 12 months a year, and you can't in New York, or especially here, like our racing season, usually the Pinty Series starts in May, the third week of May, and ends in October. So it's a little bit tougher because of just the weather changing up here the way it does. So we always joke that we have 2 seasons here. We have winter and road construction. So because whenever it's not winter, they're doing road construction. So you said like with short tracks here, like it's near me, like we have Oswego, which is a dirt track. The Pinty Series was going to go there this year, but unfortunately, like we don't know what the status of the Pinty Series is. They can't race without fans; they won't make any money. So very much gate driven, as it is on tape delay. It's not live on TV, so they can't really make any money with the pandemic situation. And really, I don't think the province of Ontario is anywhere close to allowing spectators to go to an event as of yet, and probably won't be this calendar year. To be honest with you, I'm not sure it'll happen. So. That's kind of tough. There's also a racetrack in Cayuga. There's which is the one people know, Jukasa Motor Speedway. A lot of Kenny Wallace and Ken Schrader have come up and raced there. Flamborough Speedway is near me as well. It's another racetrack that they do a lot of late model racing at. And obviously Mosport, or it's Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, as people know it. But yeah, it's just not something we really grew up with. So like, it was really cool. Like I really cherished that time that we went to New Smyrna because it was kind of like a culture shock for me. Loved that they sang the Canadian national anthem. Thought that was dope. It was like it was just for me. That's how it felt. When we got there, it was like, nice of them to do that for me. Rolling in. I was wearing that hat with the Canadian flag under the brim. I was like, yep, ready for this. So that was a lot of fun. But how has it been though, James, going to these short tracks now? I know you're up at Five Flags in Pensacola. How has it been like just with the pandemic situation? Like, how has it been going to tracks? Obviously, that's got to throw an anxiety level at you because of there's just so much uncertainty.
I mean, yeah, for me, it's an anxiety level just because, I know that if I probably do contract the virus, it could be game over for myself. Yet, you can only do so much. It's really up to the other people around you to practice the same things you are doing. That's what we've been preached a million times. Now, to that effect, the track did a decent job to at least make sure we all signed a waiver before we got in. And then they also checked our temperature, which was not bad. I don't know how exactly they checked my temperature, but it was read by something and it was approved by someone. So there you go. Got my pass, went inside. I was wearing a mask, and mainly the reason why I wore a mask was my understanding from my area in Florida, which is Pinellas County, because I live in St. Pete. Um, they had an ordinance to have your mask on after 5 p.m. no matter what. At first, it was like only an indoor ordinance, and then it turned into an outdoor. So I just had my mask on the whole time. I didn't care. It's just like my county recommends it. I'm just gonna rock it. I don't care. I was
So
pretty
is that
much the
an
only
all the
person.
time thing? Sorry, like in your county. So like if I go for a run at 5:30 p.m., I have to wear a mask.
Yeah, now it's like all the time. It's
Okay.
getting to, and it's just because like if you're in a gathering of people, I mean most people aren't gonna get like busted now if
Yeah,
they're just seen, but it depends on how things progress in the next week or so. If things continue to climb, then the mandate will become stricter.
definitely.
So it depends. But, at this event, I was definitely really the only person wearing a mask. There was a lady selling masks at the front gate for fans. I don't really know how many people bought masks from her. And I will say from the first day to the second day, because, throughout the weekend, the reports kept climbing and coming in. And another thing, too, is Pensacola is right now an area where they have set up a base for mass testing, specifically in the Pensacola area. And throughout the weekend, a lot of the and that's been like going on for about a week. So throughout the weekend, numbers kept coming in from a lot of data from tests that had been um, conducted in the area. So basically, the numbers kept rising, and a lot of those numbers were from people in the area. So Saturday, the number of masks it did go up slightly. There were more fans wearing them, but still there were a lot of fans there. They were doing their best to stay 6 feet apart. The track, they didn't have concessions as normal. They had basically people that would run from concessions to you with your food, kind of like Bobby Hill in the episode of King of the Hill when he's working at the track. VIP concessions. Yeah, the crews tried to stay, in their little huddles. People were friendly to each other, but it's a fine line because I get it. People want to be friendly to each other, but then also it's like you got to understand we're in COVID times. I think that's something I did come across as is not approachable and unfriendly and introverted, and maybe that's good because maybe that's what I need to be to not die and survive in this pandemic.
Well, the thing is, you got to do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable and to feel safe, right? Like I remember when everything first started, and I saw people going for a walk wearing a mask, and I was like, when I'd be out running, I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous. And now I think, you know what? Whatever makes you feel safe, whatever makes you feel comfortable, do that. You know what I mean? If that makes you feel safe to wear a mask when you're driving around in your car by yourself, do that. If you need that extra layer, because a lot of people deal with anxiety and depression in different ways. So I'm not going to judge people for that. So
Yeah, and it's the same way where you can't judge anyone for not wearing their mask either. So it's like, hey, you don't want to wear your mask, all right? It's whatever.
yeah, I'm
We're in
not going
this
to argue
country.
with people that don't want to
Yeah,
wear them. There's just no
I'm
there's
not
no
gonna argue
point.
either.
It's like
It's you just got to move on with your
I just
life.
stay away from those people, and I feel good about myself. I just
Yeah,
you
and,
know,
and, and
do my
that's
own
and
thing.
that's it's a two-way street for both arguments, and I think that's a great point to people. Not one side is wrong in this predicament. This is just more or less my kind of unbiased point of view of just like what I saw from what was happening, and then a lot of the news that continued to break throughout the weekend because this event was a big event. This was held by the Southern Super Series, and that's a really great series in the Southeast that has a lot of these bigger events. This is part of the Blizzard series, which was a four-event series that's held annually. It's been held for about 15 years now. But this time, particularly, they had a doubleheader specifically because of the pandemic. It messed up the schedule, so they tried to get two races in back to back, and it worked out. They got everything going. Everything was fine. Didn't hear anything crazy about people being turned away or anybody having COVID or anybody like looking like they did or something like that. It seemed like everything was fine, but and this is a point to I think to what local short tracks are versus kind of the NASCAR races. Mark, the local short tracks are also a way for a lot of these people within these regions to kind of cut loose and take a break. This is a venture. It's like to what most people is like going to the club or cutting loose downtown. It's like for a lot of urban people, just rural people, it's all about going to the short track and having a good time, crushing some beers and hanging out in the back of the truck. You know what I mean, dude?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a night out to have a good time. And not sure what the pandemic situation in the southern states is going to do to the future of short track, the short term future of short track racing. I know the event with this weekend in New Smyrna got canceled due to the pandemic situation because I guess counties can kind of decide what can be operated in their county. That's how we're doing it here as well. It's by region. Like Toronto, starting tomorrow, has you have to wear a mask in all indoor public spaces and businesses, and it's not going to be policed. There's not going to be bylaw tickets or anything. It's just like a please just do it. Like that's kind of how they're doing it. Police yourselves. We hope people will do the right thing. So it's unfortunate, man. Like to see another event get canned for now or at least get postponed. There's concerns now growing about larger events, IndyCar races, NASCAR races, IMSA races getting postponed due to the rising numbers of the pandemic. But
Yeah.
speaking,
But
oh, sorry, go ahead, James.
well, the thing is, it's about those. It's like we're not going to be able to see the impact of what those events have versus the ability to understand uh, tr- um, infection tracing to understand when you had been susceptible to this illness. If it was really when you're exposed to these races or not. We won't know that until a couple of weeks after the fact. So that's another aspect to consider. Is like, yeah, we can have these events and they'll go on, and everything will seem like business as usual. But then weeks after the fact, that's when things happen, and then that's when we really need to look at it as like, well, was this because of this event that caused this, or what? Because I just don't know if it's gonna like continue. Like, for example, the All-Star race. I know that's a big thing that's coming up, and you mentioned it with the cone rule. I like a cone rule because
They're not going to have an actual cone though, which makes me very upset.
that makes me upset,
It's
man.
going to be a
Because like,
line on the ground. Like, come on.
forget that. See, here's the thing: lines are gonna disappear. Second off, the cone is dope because you got a baller official who's gonna run out there, put that cone out, and then run out and grab it right after the fact. That's baller. That's
No,
cool.
I want a cone on a rope. Like it's retractable.
No, that's the thing. Dirt track. No, they're gonna like someone has to still run out there and put
Drone cone, drone cone. The
it.
drone drops it. Cone drone. Trademarking that right now. A drone drops the cone down and then picks it back up.
No, see,
Sponsored by
I still
Amazon.
think someone needs to get their adrenaline rush kicks out of that. But when I ran a pro truck race at 417 Speedway, there was a cone roll, and that one was a really interesting one because it's a flatter track and Bristol is not, but the top does get to work better at that track. But the cone rule was to go to the top at this track, so it was the reverse, and I like that option better because it just, meant, hey, do you really care about like where you're at, or do you just want to try to get up and get a couple spots? It really, set out who was wanting to risk the the track position versus, the collateral of actual physical damage that could, result in these ballsy moves of, the cone rule. But I don't know, man. I think the Bristol race with fans is going to be iffy, just because you can't have 40,000 people in one spot and they're not going to wear masks.
I believe it's 30,000 is what they're allowing, which to me, like, it is a little tough just because, like, considering what every other sporting league is doing right now, it seems to the outsider to be reckless to allow that many fans to attend. I think people probably from the outside looking in who aren't knowledgeable about NASCAR don't realize that Bristol holds 150,000 people, but for me it's a wait and see thing. Hopefully it's done safely. I trust that NASCAR is gonna do their best to make sure it's a safe environment for everyone. But in the end, it is up to people, and I will give people the benefit of the doubt. I think they're going to do the right thing. I think they're going to distance. I think they're going to wear masks because NASCAR fans want to watch NASCAR, and I think that they'll do the right thing and try their best to keep each other safe.
Fans just need to make sure that they adhere to orders, and that's just basically what's going to come down to. It's like going to come down to what NASCAR puts as mandates, as far as what they want to have, and then those guidelines must be followed by fans. They're obviously going to follow them, and then it's also going to come to the guidelines of, like you said, counties. It's going to come down to that county. It's going to write guidelines too for what's going to go on there too.
Definitely. And the thing for me with all-star races is, like, everyone's like, what do you think about the all-star race? I'm like, I'm kind of like anti all-star events in every sport, so I don't really have an opinion on the all-star race, to be honest with you. I will watch it because it's at Bristol and cone rule. Like, I want to see the cone rule, but I think they're just calling it the choose rule because there is no cone. Speaking of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, they're all racing this weekend, so all gonna race on the same weekend. IndyCar and NASCAR, for the first time ever, are having a doubleheader. They're gonna be at the same track on the same weekend, which is really, I think, kind of lost how groundbreaking that is. Probably because there's no fans allowed. I mean, it's going to be on TV, so it's kind of not like you can buy tickets and go to both races. Originally, this race was going to have fans, but that got shelved because Indiana has not yet reached stage 4 or stage 5 of reopening. I think they were on track 2, but that's been retracted now. They're taking a more conservative approach to reopening, so there won't be any fans. But the way it's going to work is IndyCar is actually going to race first. So IndyCar is on Saturday at, I believe, noon. They're going to race on the road course in Indianapolis, which is actually really cool because they actually go down the front stretch the opposite way. So they're going backwards towards turn 4. And they go all through the infield and then come back at the other side. It's the same road course that F1 raced on for years when they did the U.S. Grand Prix at Indy. And then the Xfinity Series is going to race right after them, also on the road course, which is I'm stoked for. I know a lot of people kind of like crap on that road course and say it's not very good, but I'm very excited to see stock cars race on that road course. And then NASCAR Cup Series on Sunday, and they're racing the oval. So like normal, no practice. They're just going to roll out and do their oval thing. So really looking forward to it. And then IMSA is racing Saturday night, but at Daytona. So they're technically their second race of the season. And it's going to be a sprint race, 2 hours and 40 minutes in July in Florida. So that'll be fun for the drivers.
When was the last time they ran that 240-minute sprint race in July? I want to say like 2009.
2010, I think, and when it was Grand Am. Yeah.
I think like Bill Lester was in that race. Kyle Busch was in that race. I think they might have shared a Lexus together back when.
It was Kyle Busch and Scott Speed.
Scott Speed, okay.
Shared a Daytona prototype for Ganassi, sponsored by Waste Management. I still remember that. Yeah.
So that event seems kind of interesting. It's going to be, I think, a good shakedown for many of the teams. Obviously, they're not really super zoned into that race as much as they're looking towards Sebring, because Sebring is the 12 hours. It's going to take a full load. It's going to take the most of the demand. This race are probably going to take out their Daytona setup. Try to make sure they can get a good, baseline for a good sprint setup for flat out speed rather than worrying about attrition. And I think that'll be more interesting to see with this race. That race has me more interested just because we haven't seen sports car racing in quite some time. No offense to IndyCar, just that's the most boring road course ever, in my opinion.
It is. It is not great. It's
Yeah.
really not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was talking to some people in IMSA, and they were like, I was like, what can you use from the Rolex for this, data can you use? Like nothing. It's going to be 8 million degrees out, and we're only racing for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So it's not, you can't use anything. And then the Sebring race, I'm like, what can you use from Sebring? Like nothing. It's a 2 hour and 40-minute sprint race in the middle of the day. So like, what the hell are we supposed to do, right?
So to me, this is just like going to be a fun free for all race. Don't take it too seriously as far as like what results you see from it towards Sebring. But like my eyes now are kind of fixated towards Sebring to kind of see what's going to happen. Where we left off with the new GTLM battle between the new Porsche, the new Corvette, Ford not being there anymore. GTD was looking pretty fire as well with their competitors. There was a really great driver mixed with the AMs and the pros. But, it'll just depend basically once we get to Sebring to see that play out. But I think the Xfinity Series is running this weekend too. They're running the
road course.
The road course. That race I'm excited to see.
Definitely.
Now, here's why. No matter what, you can put a road course that is literally an oval with a chicane in it, and you can call that a road course, and you make it a NASCAR go on it. It's just damn exciting because like nothing's more exciting than seeing a stock car turn left and right.
Honestly, because there's nothing better than seeing pedal cam and H pattern shifter on a road course. Like it's just there's just something about like I could watch old like Ricky Rudd in car from Sonoma for hours. I love stock cars on a road course. I think they need to go to more of them. And as much as I don't really like the Indy road course, I am very excited to see Xfinity cars. And I'm kind of bummed that Tony Stewart dropped out of the running, obviously just because of the pandemic situation. They were going to field an extra car for him, and he's not going to do that anymore. But we are going to get the return of, I believe, 61-year-old Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace is driving for JD Motorsports this weekend. And don't sleep on Mike Wallace. Look at his career finishes on road courses. That man can turn left and right very well. So do not sleep on Mike Wallace. I'm really excited to see him come back. He's one of our favorite strange starters. Mike Wallace. We made a video about Mike Wallace. Come on. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, I'm going to be more excited to, as we continue on with this Xfinity Series storyline of the championship battle. It's been a really great season so far. Chase Briscoe has really asserted himself as the championship favorite so far. But we're going to a road course. Normally he's not the man there. Normally, Mark, your favorite driver is the man, Mr. Austin Cindric. Can't win on an oval yet, Cindric. But
Briscoe actually, I'm gonna push back on you here a little bit, James. Briscoe actually won the inaugural race on the Roval in 2018.
Yeah.
So he can wheel, not bad on a road course. But Austin Cindric is he the favorite? Because AJ Allmendinger's in this race.
Well, see, that's where I was going to go with. You got Cindric and you got Allmendinger as well, who's now become more of an Xfinity Series regular as well as a broadcaster in his retirement era. I don't know if there's going to be any extra or special additions to this race because on road ringers because of the pandemic. Mainly, that's probably squashed a lot of those participants from this event. But from there, looking at the Xfinity Series regulars themselves, who else jumps out at you to, say, yeah, I like them as far as a road course, racer? Because the Xfinity Series does venture on a road courses a little more frequently than the trucks or the Cup Series.
I think Xfinity has 5 road courses now. So in a regular season, obviously we don't know with what's going on this year if that's going to happen. So, but in a regular season now, with adding Indy, it's 5. It's Indy, Mid Ohio, Road America, Watkins Glen, and the Roval. So, obviously for me, the 2 clear favorites are Cindric and Allmendinger. I really think that if nothing else happens, it's a battle between those 2 for the win. And I think Dinger on sheer aggressiveness is definitely going to be the favorite of the two. But I would love to see Austin Cindric, knock off another one, so then more people on Twitter can say, no, you can't win on ovals, you can only win on road courses. Because I love that, because that's like a really stupid opinion to have. But I think if other guys, like, I don't know, like who else jumps out at you? Obviously, Justin Allgaier. He's a road course guy as well. He's won at Montreal. He's won at Mid-Ohio. So he's another guy that could definitely pull off a victory. I really think we're at the point now where almost every driver in the field has pretty good expertise on road courses. We covered that in that Strange Starters video where it's like the reason for the downfall of the Ringer is because all these guys are just so much better on road courses now. Our guy Jeb Burton's racing this weekend. Funny story. When he got his sponsorship and decided to like pick and choose races that were good for him, he picked Indy because he runs well there. Then NASCAR announced they're doing the road course instead. And I think he only has 2 starts in NASCAR on a road course, both truck races. So it's going to be interesting to watch Jeb race. He was out in Las Vegas doing some like performance road course driving this week to like get ready for it. So looking forward to seeing him. But I think your clear favorites are Cindric and Allmendinger, and your sleeper is Allgaier. And what do you think, James?
You have no hope for Alex Labay, dude? Come on.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't think Alex Labay's got like the pit stop speed and stuff you're gonna need. You know what I mean? Especially now that road courses have stages. Like, can they work a crazy strategy to get him up front? I don't know.
Well,
man.
now they got that whole road course rules. I don't know if they're still going to apply those this weekend or not.
Well, we'll see, man. Like, I would love to see Alex Labay do well. Like, I could see him finishing in the top 10. And also, Josh Bilicki. He's racing this weekend. And our boy Josh, don't sleep on Josh. He has his best career Xfinity finish on a road course. And he's a veteran of the Global MX5 Cup. That man has turned laps on a road course before. So look out for him.
An interesting person on the entry list that we know point out is Jade Buford. He normally drives a Mustang GT4 on the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge circuit for PF Racing. He's going to make his Xfinity debut probably with SS Greenlight Racing in number 07. Teammate to Joe Graff Jr., number 08. That's going to be an interesting debut to watch. If I'm going to pick someone who's going to be good, I like Harrison Burton. He's shown pretty good prowess on the few starts he had in the trucks at CTMP. I feel like he's got a good wave of momentum. He's got a good group of people around him. Brandon Jones has been someone who's been kind of quiet. I think he's been on this tour long enough to have really gained those vital skills on the road courses. So I'm going to say you're going to have to look out for him. Of course, Allmendinger as well. Probably another interesting name too. He just won recently, Justin Haley. I feel like, the colleagues obviously are going to have a lot of depth now with AJ being on their team, stepping up the whole fleet of cars, especially on the road courses. And not only just their cars, but their drivers. And if there's anyone who needs to be like a sponge, it's Justin Haley. He's probably been that sponge, especially around AJ on the road course expertise.
Has a win in the truck series at CTMP. Granted, he was running third and the leaders took each other out. But you know what?
Sometimes
it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, right place, right time. But as for the IndyCar race, James, I don't know if you've been following what's happened in IndyCar this year. Obviously, they've only had one race at Texas. Was kind of a crapshoot because of the traction compound staining the track from the NASCAR race and there not being enough grip to have 2 grooves. And usually that race is a banger and it was just like not good. Scott Dixon won because, of course he did. Scott Dixon's like the GOAT. He's the Jimmy. If you're not familiar with IndyCar, Scott Dixon is the Jimmy Johnson of IndyCar. He has 5 championships and he's just straight baller. He's also from New Zealand, so that's really cool. And he likes Taco Bell. It's apparently his favorite restaurant, which is a fun fact about Scott Dixon. So they're racing their second race of the season at the Indy Road Course, and usually this race is either won by Will Power or Simon Pagenaud. Both drive for Penske, so to me the favorite is either of them. That's pretty much it.
I'm gonna pick. It's gonna be a long shot. Santino Ferrucci. That's
San-
right. I'm gonna pick
Santino.
Santino, man, because I don't know why. First off, he's always had the most baller, swaggerific attitude out of any IndyCar driver I've seen in probably 20 years. Like, damn, he's got so much swag. He just dripping swag. It's crazy. Other than that, I feel like everyone's been sitting idle for a while, and it's time for the road course drivers to kind of like step up. Like Mark said, obviously Dixon, Pagano, they're going to be strong. Power is going to be strong as well. And I would also put, if I'm going to put someone up there, I'd put HunterReay, because he's normally a decent
Yeah.
at the Grand Prix.
I've seen a couple
And
people say that too. Like, don't sleep on Ryan HunterReay this weekend, you know? So,
I just something's about Andretti. They just when they're quiet for so long, then all of a sudden HunterReay just comes out of nowhere and busts out a win. I don't know why. It's always HunterReay. It's like there should be a meme where Ryan HunterReay just like sits down with back pain. It's like everyone at Andretti Autosport asks why he's in so much pain. He's just like from carrying this entire team. It's like that's why
we'll
his
have to
back.
get him. We'll have to get him some Blue Emu to help
Yeah,
soothe those aching muscles. So we'll talk about that in a moment. The other guy is obviously Alexander Rossi. You cannot sleep on Rossi, the other
no.
Andretti guy. Like, he really carried Andretti last year. It was like, and when he won, it was like dominating fashion. It would be like he lead. I think he led. He lead every single lap at Road America. There was no cautions, so he won by like a minute. Uh,
I think also another one too, and I think we just might have just slept on him already, and probably everybody's yelling at the screen is Colton Herta.
yes,
But
definitely.
I mean, come on, that's like going to Vegas and just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna put it all on seven black." It's like, yeah, what other cliche do you want to pick too, man? Come on, like we
Yeah.
can't always just say Colton Herta. It's just like the one cliche name because you got a go-to thing and you think you got a hot tip or insight. It's like, all right, calm down,
But he's
calm
so
down.
stupid talented and skilled, and he's in a really good car now because he's on the Andretti flagship team now. Last year he was on a team that had help from Andretti. They had Andretti Technologies, and he won 2 races. He's the youngest winner in IndyCar history. So both on road courses, he won at Coda and at Laguna Seca. So yeah, like, you can't sleep on him. I think he's definite fast six potential in qualifying. I have a gripe with the term fast six. I feel like they could have come up with something better than the
Like
term.
the quick six.
Yeah. So, fun fact about Quick Six: the Calgary Stampeders are a CFL team, and they have a horse as their mascot, and the horse's name is Quick Six because you score 6 points, right? You get a Quick Six, and every time they score a touchdown, it runs down the length of the field. It doesn't this year because there's no sports, but it would other years. If there were sports, that horse would be running up and down the field. Quick Six. Nobody gets that reference. Moving along, the last race we talk about is, well, we didn't really talk about our favorites for the IMSA race, but here's the thing, folks. You have no idea who's going to win a sports car race beforehand. It's like you can't just be like Wayne Taylor Racing, or I think, like, 'cause if you try to pick a winner for the Rolex 24, like back at the beginning of the year, everyone's like, who do they say to win the Rolex? I'm like, I don't know. Who's gonna have brake failure at 3 in the morning? I have no idea. So it's tough to pick a winner for that, but you can never go wrong with Wayne Taylor Racing to win the race overall. DPI, they're like just so stupid good. Like their driver lineups are always ridiculous.
I'll give you a good challenger right there. It's Action Express. Definitely gonna go with the number 31 Wheeling Action Express entry. I feel like they've got something. They're same power plant as Wayne Taylor. I feel like the Cadillac DPIs are they're for some reason at Daytona they're just superior. And we've seen just about
Over
every other team.
24 hours though, James. That's 2 hours and 40
Well, no.
minutes.
Now here's where I'm going to say that too. Yes, they have been dominant. We've seen every team jump over towards that platform just because monkey see, monkey do. Except for our favorites at Team Joyce, I feel like they have had the short run speed, especially during the 24. They just have not had the endurance. They've had a lot of attrition. So with that speed and the sprint race, could they finally close one out at Daytona? They did set the track record this year. I'm pretty sure everybody forgot about that because that was like literally 5 years ago now.
So that's the Mazda team that
Mazda
James is
team.
talking about. Mazda team Yost, which is actually now, I think it's Multimatic that's actually running that team. I don't actually think
Yes.
they're, are they with Yost anymore? I don't know.
I don't think Yoast is there actually. So it's a
I think it's
multimatic effort
good
with
Canadian
Mazda.
company, Multimatic.
Just they're doing everything. They talk about their backs hurting from just carrying the entire industry of motorsports.
That Ford GTLM program, it was the Multimatic GTLM program sponsored by Ford. Like that's basically what that was. Multimatic built that car. They did everything. Larry Holt, who runs Multimatic, is like a wizard. He even looks like a wizard. He's got long gray hair, you know. So that man does great work. So yeah, it's tough to pick a winner, like especially in each class. Like
Oh,
I don't know who's
here's
gonna
what you
win.
do, Mark. You look at the 24, and then you just like you look at all the manufacturers, and you pick your favorite manufacturer, and that's your pick.
That's how you pick your car. Because the thing is, in sports car racing, people cheer for the car. In
Hmm.
NASCAR and IndyCar, they cheer for the driver. But in sports cars, I like Porsches. I want the Porsche team to win. Right? So drivers almost kind of fly under the radar in sports car racing to a certain extent. Obviously, the famous
Unless you got a
ones.
badass name, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Which
exactly.
a lot of them do.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you can be a Lamborghini fan. But I'm going to go, I think if I had to pick someone, I'm going to go with Acura Team Penske because they got a favorable BOP adjustment. So always go with the team with favorable BOP. If you're not familiar with BOP, it's balance of performance. It's what IMSA does to the cars to make them equal. So, although, everyone complains that it's not actually equal. So, basically, it's how you can have a Lexus RCF race against a Lamborghini Huracan and have them be similar in speed. That's what they do. They kind of like, you're going to add some weight to you, take some horsepower from you, and make everyone kind of equal. So that's the way they do it, whether it's fair or not. But James, the last race of the weekend, it's on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Man, you know what sucks, Mark? I don't want to beat the horse about the package. I just
The package
I'm
on
t
on large
no, I'm
tracks.
just tired. I'm tired of these long straightaways, man. Why don't we just make the straightaways shorter so the cars are faster on them? You know what I mean?
So
Because that's
you mean make every track a short track?
sort of, yeah, just like limit the length of run between each corner.
What
That's
if
all you need. Because
what if we
that's
just
gonna be
put
the most frustrating.
chicanes in the middle of the straightaway and
That
made
that
every
that
track a road course? Road course, every track would be a roval.
There you go. That could help. Except for these cars don't stop, so that would never work. Um, that's going to frustrate me a bit, in this race, just how the package is going to really come down to who gets the runs and working together and drafting, side drafting. It's going to be big. There's going to be so much that happens on the straightaway, and there's going to be a lot more time on the straightaway in between those turns just because of that limited horsepower. It's going to make things a lot more interesting, and it's going to make the battling and the restart so much more intense because you got to get everything you can before everything goes single file there. It's all about track position and getting while the getting's good. So it's going to be a really tough race. If I got to pick a favorite, it's hard to not go with Mr. Momentum right now, and that's Kevin Harvick. He's been strong at Indy since his rookie year in 2001. My God, it's insane the stats he's got. I'm surprised he's not with the same win total as Rick Mears. You know what I mean? In NASCAR, though, as far as Brickyard 400 victories. Uh, though, if I got to pick another person, I like his teammates, specifically Amarola. He did show good speed this weekend, but I'm not sure. It just if
I
all the
think
other
I think
SHRs.
starting on the pole really helped, like being out in clean air. Like I think that really,
Yeah.
like I don't want to take anything away from him, but I think drawing pole really did help that team a lot.
Well, not only just the pole, but like I just don't think it's the same car. I feel like whatever Rodney Childress and Kevin Harvick and that Ford team have developed over these years, I don't think anybody at HSR can really replicate it unless they're literally handed it. And even if they're handed it, I don't think they can perform at the same level as Kevin and Rodney. So that's a big thing. The Fords though, it's hard not to go with the Ford, but I don't know what you think, Mark.
So I got no idea who's going to win. I would say don't sleep on Ryan Blaney.
No, no.
The Penske's in general. It's IMS. It's Penske. They're synonymous with each other. I think Penske is going to run well there. Obviously, the qualifying draw is going to be important because clean air, like James said, track position. You want to be out front. If Pocono is any indication, obviously Pocono's turn 3 is modeled after one of the turns at Indianapolis. If Pocono is any indication and Goodyear brings a similar tire compound, you're going to see 2 tire stops. And you're going to see guys track position being paramount, because we saw in the race on Saturday cars with 2 tires just driving away from cars with 4 because they were out front. It did not matter if you took tires or not. So really kind of like killed the strategy. Although we did kind of get some decent strategy racing at Pocono. It wasn't the best racing in the world, but at least you did see some different strategies. So that was kind of cool. Kind of like a road course in that way. But
yeah, and I think that's something we're going to see here too. Now it just depends on how the first 2 stages go, but that last stage, strategy to win this race, that's going to be the big thing, because history has proven that, especially at Indy, whether there's a late caution or a long green flag run, it's all about what strategy your crew chief has to unveil. So if they can get you with the right fuel mileage to win the thing just outright on a green flag run, that's huge. Or if they have that, gutsy call to give you 2 tires on a very late restart and you can hold it off on one of those aggressive restarts, you could end up kissing the bricks at the end of the day.
So my bold predictions are this. I don't think there's going to be a lot of cautions. I think it's going to be long green flag runs, and I think the race is going to be boring. And second, my other bold prediction is that you're going to have a front row motorsports car in the top 10, probably John Hunter Nemechek.
Now I'm going to argue anyone who's going to hate on that fact, because, front row last year had a lot of speed here. Michael McDowell was really fast here. And so was
Matt Tiff told us all about
Matt
it. He was
Tiff.
like ran 11th, 12th all day.
Great run. Yep. Yeah. So the 38 and the 34 are definitely going to have speed. And now it's just all about if the strategy for those cars works out for them to have a good result at the end of the day. If not, they're definitely going to be in the top 15. If not, one of them will be knocking around in the top 10 for sure. Bubba Wallace, though, that's one driver I am looking forward to see. Last year, this team had tremendous speed at Indianapolis, had a top 5 run. Now, Indy in the past, if you look at some trends, people who perform well at Indy tend to repeat their performances. They tend to go there and always run well. Now, I'm excited to see if RPM and Bubba Wallace are going to come back with that same speed to be top 5 contenders. Oh, and also, too, with that, what RCR is going to bring. Reddick's been fast this year. Pocono wasn't his strong suit, unfortunately, but the 3 and the 8 car, BC, it'd be interesting to see what kind of speed they have to bring as well, because they're all in some alliance with each other.
Yeah, Childress has been, they've been good this year. Better than what people thought, and I think having Reddick there really pushing Austin Dillon. Not to say that Austin Dillon's gotten complacent or anything like that. He gets a lot of hate, because of who his grandfather is. He owns the team, things like that, and I've been critical of Austin Dillon in the past myself. I have, but as I've matured and gotten older and realized how hard it is to win in NASCAR, like he's got 2 wins. He's won a Daytona 500 and a Coke 600. He's 2 Crown Jewel wins. I think to continue to hate on him, like even if he gets outpaced by Tyler Reddick, like I think Tyler Reddick is a great talent. I think he's gonna be a multiple Cup winner, going to contend for championships. So I don't hold that against Austin Dillon. And it seems like having a good, strong teammate there is really helped push Austin Dillon to be better. And I think you're even seeing that trickle down, like you said, to RPM, because Richard Petty Motorsports gets their cars and their engines from Richard Childress Racing. So. Or it was the Earnhardt Childress Racing engines, I believe they're still called. So,
because the legacy lives on, bro.
Exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see. And this is kind of a weird episode because we just kind of talked about races that are upcoming. We didn't flash back to any races, James. We did initially,
and we flashed back to all the previous races and trends to get you, in the know-how for upcoming races. So don't test us, you can't arrest us. You always have to think back.
And now for something completely different, folks. We have joked over the first 40 episodes of Flashback to the Track all about Comedically, the idea of getting a sponsor. Like, we could do, live reads for the Quip toothbrush or for the Ridge wallet and other companies that exclusively use podcasts and new media to advertise. But we have an exciting announcement. Starting next week, we are officially Flashback to the Track, presented by Blue Emu, the official pain relief cream of NASCAR. That's right, folks. Blue Emu has decided to partner with us. It is a limited partnership. They're going to be the presenting sponsor of our podcast, and we'll also just be talking about Blue Emu products. We really appreciate them coming on to help us out. It's something that honestly, like James and I never dreamed would happen this early in the growth of our podcast. So it's awesome. Big shout out to Ben Blessing from Blue Emu for reaching out to us and sending James a great box of Blue Emu product, which now there's apparently a big box of Blue Emu product on its way to my house. So really excited about that. And James, are you as excited about this as I am?
I'm pretty excited. It's a good deal. Shout out to Blue Emu for, giving us not only the strength to keep this podcast going, but the strength to take on some of the pain that's in our lives, man. It's a lot of pain, a lot of unevenness in my legs and my joints and my muscles from hard days work on the track.
And now you can soothe those aches and pains with a variety of Blue Emu products.
I can soothe it with the official cream of NASCAR and probably Major League Baseball. Don't quote me on that. And also, official bath bombs of Flashback to the Track. Not officially but unofficially, the official bath bombs of Flashback to the Track.
Yeah, so
they give you options for relief.
All kinds of different great products that use real emu oil, which is very beneficial for just soothing tired and sore muscles and joints. So really looking forward to having them come on board. So we will be doing all kinds of fun things with them. We might even have one of the drivers that they partner with join us on the podcast, but we'll let you know when that happens. So yeah, thanks again to Blue Emu for partnering with us. Just really cool that they wanted to be involved in the community on NASCAR Twitter and Instagram and with our podcast. So really not something we ever thought would happen. So we're really stoked about it. So we'll get better at the terminology and we'll work all that out, So look, please don't skip over the parts where we talk about Blue Emu, give back.
So, like MC Hammer, I'm going to wrap this up. It's not Hammer time, though, because the IRS wrapped him up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we always talk about that. It's like, if you win the lottery, how could you spend it all in a lifetime? Well, somehow MC Hammer spent all of his money. So
hey, to quote Tony Stewart, as he would say many times before the Brickyard 400, if I won this race, we'd party so hard we'd spend all the winnings before midnight.
Yep, and that's probably true. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Flashback to the Track. Episode 41? 42? 42. I think it's 42. Because last week was 41. Or earlier this week was 41. It's a 2-episode week. So, because, we just had time. So we said, let's do 2 episodes. So it's episode 42. It's Juan Pablo Montoya, Felix Sabates, Jamie McMurray week episode. So let's cut that out.
Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, so episode 42. Thanks so much for listening. Again, thank you to Blue Emu. Big shout out to them. Starting next week, we'll be all Blue Emu all the time. So looking forward to next week. Hoping to have a guest. I don't know. What are we going to do next week, James? I don't know. Are we going to review something? Have a guest? I don't know.
Might just review something.
The world is our oyster. We actually had Chris, who's our biggest fan on Twitter, send me a racing reference page to a ARCA race from 2002 that Tony Stewart and Ken Schrader were in, and it was this crazy race.
Was it a dirt track race?
I believe so, yes. So
was Andy Petrie also in that race?
Yes, Andy Petrie was in that
I know
race.
which ones you're talking about because my girlfriend and I watched that. We watched 3 of those races in a row one day over the winter break, so I know exactly which ones you're talking about. Those are really interesting because those were held, I believe, after the Southern 500. So like Stewart and everybody came in right after that. So yeah, I'd say let's check those out. I think those are really cool ones. I don't remember the track off the top of my head, but
DuQuoin State Fairgrounds, I believe.
DuQuoin, yes. So for a lot of dirt fans, DuQuoin is a legendary dirt track. still, I believe, an active track as well. So I think that'd be a really cool one to check out, the coin ARCA events, because those are findable on YouTube as well.
So we might do that. We might have a guest. We'll see. But thanks, everybody, for listening. Again, thanks to Blue Emu. And we'll see you in the next episode. And thanks for listening to our pointless rambling. Really appreciate it. Kind of not what we usually do, but it is what it is.
Have a good one, y'all.